All right, and we're back. So, before the break, as it's going to be shown as, we had mentioned Fin Balor versus Nakamura on the equivalent of NXT's free TV.
Right.
You know, it's not being billed for a takeover. It's not really getting a lot of push behind it. It's clearly going to be a babyface versus babyface fight. You know, they've had them each go back and forth with it being about respect and everything else. Nobody's turned heel. So, do you think this is how they're going to send Fin Balor out? Do you think, you know, he's going to go out on his back, as it were? Because NXT's booked by Triple H largely. And say what you want about Triple H and his magical shovel of berryness. He has been running NXT like an old school promotion. And
right.
Most everyone who's left has left on their back. They've gone out with a loss.
Yeah,
Sami Zayn did. You know, anybody who's appeared on the main roster has at some point as their last appearance taken a loss.
Well, I mean, by the track record, it wouldn't be surprising, but yeah, I mean, if he is moving up, it kind of makes sense. Like, they're trying to get this match, this really cool dream match, kind of out the door before the characters are split off our roster.
It's true.
Before, you know, because they don't have any pay-per-view, quote-unquote, type events or bigger themed shows.
They don't have a takeover special near enough by that they would be willing to wait.
Because I don't know, like, if what all NXT has as far as its...
They do about every other month. Every other month.
I don't know what all they... Is it just takeovers they have as far as
they don't
their big name events?
I don't even think you can get WWE pay-per-views on pay-per-view anymore. I know there's some still... there might be some still carrying them, but I think by and large it's just on the network, which is really sort of a backhanded thing, but it is what it is, and that's their new model, and it's a model that's going to make them money.
Right.
You know, they get to 1 million subscribers. That's more money per month they've been drawing, even with their best pay-per-views. Right. They're drawing more money overall spread out over the course of the year, having 1 million paid subscribers a month, than they are under the old model of just live event tickets and pay-per-view.
Right. It makes sense why they're going this way. You know,
and when you
it's going with the times.
It is, and when you factor in global,
yeah.
When they, and eventually enough emerging markets and everything else, yeah, this is going to put WWE eventually in one of the best financial positions they've ever been in. And that's not just me saying it as a fanboy. It's a lot of the people who analyzed this move when it first happened said that if they can survive the rough beginning, and it was a rough beginning, then they were gonna come out of this okay.
The network movement, you mean, or just making it? Okay.
Yeah, just making the network. Just go into this whole idea of putting all of this content and all of their pay-per-views and
a stream service
on a stream service with a relatively low standard price. So, and giving away every month for free to get new people in, and you get the boo-boos who rig that system in their favor and sign up with different email addresses over and over. And don't get me wrong, I work in IT. The WWE could crush that in a second. They could use IP detection. They could do a lot of ways to stop that scamming. Same way AOL could back in the day for everybody who kept just stealing monthly free AOL discs. They don't do that because they know sooner or later odds are in their favor. You're going to get sick and tired of the hassle and either not waste their time or pay for it.
Right. Like I say, we're just, buy into it.
Right. So, it's interesting, but we're getting off topic about this.
Right.
Where do you see, like, do you see this being the impotence? Let's assume Nakamura wins. Do you see this being Nakamura's road to becoming the top guy on the brand, becoming the champion?
Most likely. He's already on that track. Even if this is a loss, I think he'd probably still have a shot at staying up top because he's just so popular on its own. Like,
and he's one of those few people that prove you can be charismatic without talking.
Right.
Because he can't really talk in English to save his life, but he doesn't need to. He comes out, he says couple of phrases in broken English. He does his jittery movements and
his
gets the crowd right,
and
that's on, and that's all he needs to do.
And then he kicks you or he knees you in the face, and it's over.
Right. I'm talking about just outside the ring, just the way he carries himself outside the ring has that level of a lot of ways, he reminds me of Rob Van... And I know you don't remember a lot of this. He reminds me of ECW Rob Van Dam.
Right.
Just fits a little bit different in today's world. But that was all Rob Van Dam was. Rob Van Dam was cool. Rob Van Dam could talk more and had more charisma on the mic than Nakamura, but he didn't need it. He rarely ever spoke when he did. And, a lot of his stuff was just the ring movement and doing the double thumbs, pointing at himself for the RVD and the jump spin that he would do in the air when they would announce him. And, he got over super well as a heel by taking all that stuff and just stopping it when he was teaming with Sabu and then showing the cocky, arrogant side. And you could do that with Nakamura if they ever needed to turn him heel. You just have him doing all the same stuff he's doing. You have him stop.
Yeah.
But you have him still keep that cocky edge. And that's going to make a monster heel out of him when they're ready because everybody's going to want to see that showmanship side of him.
And he's just not going to do it.
He's not going to do it, but he's still going to be able to kick your ass in the ring.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like it'd be pretty interesting. Oh, speaking of Nakamura real quick, we still got some time. I remember this kind of interesting idea we had, I believe, where I thought of imagine, I know teams from male to female sides aren't as common and they usually don't last as long. But imagining Nakamura and Asuka together and just how popular they are on both sides of, the gender line.
It would be cool to do, but it would be so predictable to do to put one Asian with another. And as I said before when you had that idea, as cool as it would be on paper, you have two people now who can't talk.
Yeah.
They need to pair him with, if they're going to pair him with anybody, it's got to be with a mouthpiece. That's why I don't see them pairing him with a female. Yeah. Unfortunately, as good as the Divas are in the ring, even the best, the only Divas out of the new crop, out of the quote-unquote Divas Revolution who can really talk are Charlotte and Sasha Banks. And they're too big of stars on their own to get paired, even with a big star like Nakamura.
Right.
They're too big for that. Bayley's great in the ring. Her natural charisma comes through in her actions. And she can talk, but she's not a great talker. Nia Jax can't say two words without clearly looking lost.
Yeah.
Asuka can't speak English.
So yeah, that's a bit of a no-go. That's a bit of a no-go
Dana
there.
Brooke is okay on the mic, and Carmilla is okay.
Which one was the one that Asuka fought recently? The really big lady? That's
Nia Jax.
Was that Jax?
That's
Couldn't
Nia
remember
Jax.
That was that Sasha character.
And there's a lot of people thinking she's going to the main roster, which is what I said when we had reviewed the last Takeover special. When it's like,
was Nia Jax?
Yeah, that's two big shows where she's lost.
Yeah.
Does she have viability in NXT anymore? Okay. And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's at that point where she's not going to learn anything more from them. So why not kind of throw her to the wolves on the main roster, but let her get that edge. Let her use any frustration from that to her advantage and really get that heel voice that she doesn't have. Right now she's playing a part. Oh, I'm supposed to be the big bad woman. I'm going to be the big bad woman. The greatest heels of all time, including an actual cousin of hers in The Rock, came from having something to pull from to make it feel real. Rock became a great heel when he got pissed about the Die Rocky Die chants.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be bad.
Triple H became a great heel when he got sick and tired of being held back because of the curtain call incident, as they call it, where he went out with Shawn Michaels and said goodbye to X-Pac and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall in Madison Square Garden, and there were good guys and bad guys, and it was all a big hullabaloo because that was right at the tail end of kayfabe being alive. So she needs something to motivate her to actually be a heel and to feel it more than just what she's getting fed to on paper.
Right.
And I think the main roster is the spot for her to do that. Plus, they've got a lot of divas just not doing anything in NXT.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a couple minutes left here in this episode. So, we kind of covered all of our main points.
I was going to say, if we didn't make that last point kind of clear, it's probable that if Finn loses, he'll probably get pushed up to the main roster, which I think would be pretty interesting. I know that's his main routine. It's been played to death by now. I don't even know if he's still doing it, but It'd be kind of interesting if Finn Balor makes it to the main roster if they end up having a feud with him and the Wyatts.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, they did have to drop the trademark for Balor Club because of Baylor University, because they're spelled similar, having an issue with that. That was big news that trademark was abandoned. It's interesting to see where they go with that. That doesn't mean anything. That they could refile it under a different classification. But yeah. I think that you're either going to see the club turn on AJ Styles and side with Finn Balor, and you're going to have, Styles versus the club. But that doesn't work, because for that to work, it would have to turn AJ Styles back to face, because the 1-on-3 numbers game only really works when it's babyface is the low number. When the 1 is the babyface. So I don't think they'll do that. And I don't really see it working, even though it was the way it was in Japan, that you have Finn Balor coming in as a subordinate to AJ Styles. Then again, that could be how they eventually draw this out. You have Balor come in, be part of the club, eventually the power struggle, which is how AJ Styles assumed power in Japan. He usurped a leader. So maybe that's the way they do it. Maybe they just go full bore for the copy effect, and Balor comes in, gets drafted to the same brand as them, because his debut is probably going to happen at the draft, and he ends up joining up with the club. It looks all great. Hey, we're doing our Bullet Club thing here. Life's good. Styles blows another couple title opportunities. One title opportunity lands in Balor's lap. He gets, that either gets closer than Styles or actually gets the belt, because they could do this just the same with like a U.S. belt as they could with a world belt. And it causes that dissension that leads to a split. And either you have Styles get kicked out and turn face, or you have Balor kicked out and turn face. Not that I think he'll ever really turn heel in this. And if they're smart, they won't force it as a heel turn, because the club's getting cheered now as it is. Anytime you hear them getting booed, it's a piped-in boo.
I was going to say, so could you explain a little bit of like what the club is and like what they're about? Because I haven't followed too much.
Well, yeah, and you'd have to be a fan of the Japanese side of wrestling, and we're down to 2 minutes. So
wow.
Here's the quick capsule to end the show for you that doesn't know. The Bullet Club was a successful group of wrestlers started mainly in Japan for New Japan, and their gimmick was not entirely different than the NWO, where they would interfere and cause ruckshot and everything, but whereas the NWO was always set on destroying the company they were in, this was purely about business for the Bullet Club. They wanted to destroy everyone in their way so that they could run things as champions. That was always their goal. It wasn't just, we're taking over the company. It was, we want to run the company from a standpoint of, we want to have all the gold. We want to be the top guys. Because they all knew they were indie guys at their core, and therefore that was their show of solidarity. And it worked really well, and a lot of guys who probably wouldn't have been as big a stars as they were in Japan, including Gallows and Anderson, who just came over as the club in WWE, got the rub by doing that. So that's the overview of the Bullet Club, and that's a really good thing to point out, because I think if they do this right on the main roster, which WWE has an iffy track record of, then this could be a great way to get Finn Balor over on the main roster relatively quickly and build up to what would be a mega feud between him and Styles. But we'll have to leave it there for now.
Sounds like it could work well.
All right, and this has been Nerds at Night. I am Kid Thunder DJ.
And I'm Fire47.
And we will see you next time. Again, keep an eye out on the YouTube channel for our next video over LEGO Star Wars Force Awakens. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsatnight, N-I-T-E, YouTube at Nerds at Night, N-I-T-E, and now Twitter at Nerds at Night. And to everybody else, we'll see you again soon.
Have a good night. Cheers.
And we're back. So, going back to what was supposed to be in the first block or second block, let's talk about an interesting image that I found bouncing around on Facebook, which was the console prices adjusted for inflation. And this goes all the way back to the Atari 2600. Right. Now, this was This is always fascinating to me when they talk about, this movie made $50 million in 1965, and in today's money, that's worth, because that's actually pretty telling of how you can look at how much we think something costs now and how much that same amount of money to earn that same amount of money, how much money it would take back then. Maybe so that some of the younger people listening will quit bitching about prices. So let's start, obviously, at the beginning with... Now, we're going to play this as a little game. I know you can see the images, Brandon, so I know this isn't more anything you're going to have to guess. But
I've already got it up.
I know if you got to tell me if you've played any games on this and if you think that its original price still seemed kind of high for the technology. And I know it's hard to put yourself in that era because you weren't born up until Sega Saturn PlayStation.
I was going to say around PlayStation era, I believe.
Right. So there's,
almost
11
2 decades.
systems before.
11 systems, about 2 decades.
Yeah, that you weren't here for. So the Atari 2600 debuted in 1977. Its original price was $200. Adjusted for today's dollars, that's $796.
Wow.
I don't think it was worth $200 back then.
I don't believe, I can't say I've played it besides small bits of testing here and there that we had to do when we got some in. But, it does seem like, especially if that was almost $800 equivalent back then, that does seem really excessive. I mean, it's new technology, so I get it's kind of like the virtual reality headsets going out today that are, really pricey, but obviously, by the next decade they're going to be cut in half at least on price.
Right. New technology is always higher, but the Atari really wasn't that high tech for what it was. I mean, it was building on some of the existing technology. It was more of an upgrade over some of the other systems. And then we move on a couple of years to 79, and you have the Intellivision, which, trust me, as a retro reseller guy, nobody likes the Intellivision anymore. It is... You would think that would help in my market because it would make it rarer, but it doesn't. Its original price, $300. Its adjusted for inflation price would be $935. Really not worth it with all the trouble that system had.
Not even just on its design alone, like that stupid wired remote control.
Yeah,
that was annoying.
The double built-in controls you couldn't change. The button and weird spin wheel that you could also tilt controls. It was not good. Onward and upward, 1982. So this is another system that predates me, and that is the ColecoVision. Original price in 1982, $175, which is pretty reasonable. That's actually lower than its compatriots for a better. And it was about on par with the Intellivision. A little bit better graphics, but by and large... I was going to say,
even looks roughly similar design.
Yeah, then there were some cross-compatible games, even though there weren't supposed to be. That was the tail end of the cowboy era of licensing. Because, the game market crash in 83. Right. So, $410 was its adjusted for inflation price on a 175 original. Yeah. And then now we're getting into me at least being alive. 1986's Sega Master System. Original retail price, $200. Adjusted for inflation, $412. That's pretty cool. It's about double the price it would be, and kind of what you would expect a system to be worth in today's dollars. That's about entry price for the current generation. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Roughly, yeah.
Same for the ColecoVision, really. So, moving down to the NES, its original price was $200. In 1986, $412 adjusted for our inflation. Again, that's about right.
Right.
Because they're not far apart at all. They're both 86, so you expect them to be the same. So, and then the next two that stay in the same sort of price range were the TurboGrafx 16 and the Sega Genesis, both 1989. One was $190, one was $200. Sega was the $191, obviously. That put the price difference between them both at the $350 range in today's dollars. Now, the funny thing about the TurboGrafx 16 and what made it not sell so well in America was it was one player only.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no second player. There was no way to do two players.
Yeah, I can see that being a hindrance to it, especially at the higher price point.
Right. I mean, $10 more, but it had better games because a lot of what Neo Geo had going for it and what made it so successful. or TurboGrafx, I mean. And what made it so successful in Japan is that there were several arcade ports only available on it. Plus, they had one of the first fully portable sort of Sega Nomad-like devices that could play their full games on a portable system, because this used cards for game cartridges, so that made it even easier. And then we're going to get into one of the most expensive, I believe, after adjusted for inflation, the most expensive on our list, 1990's Neo Geo system. $650 was its original price tag, $1,125 today.
God, that price alone was just like the original price alone. Like, not even the original PS3 was $650. $600, which isn't too far off, and they quickly cut that down, but God, $650 back in the day.
Yeah, and it was one of the early game systems to use discs. It was designed to be direct arcade ports. It was built on the same technology as the Neo Geo Arcade, and didn't sell well in Japan, didn't sell well here. It's actually an extremely rare system to find anymore. Did get some love in a version of the Neo Geo Gold, or X Gold I think it's called, which was kind of a plug-and-play version of it. Did have a ton of games for, 100 or so games for it that you could play on this new version. Because their games were really good. I mean, they were Neo Geo arcade games, which were really good to begin with. So, yeah, and we're going a little longer with this bit than I was wanting to. So, but that's the. No, you're fine.
Want to just skip to 3DO and call it a quit on this bit?
No, there's a couple I want to look at because we're 7 minutes in. We're supposed to have 30. Why is it acting like we only have 15 left?
Right, that's what was confusing.
Yeah,
it was seeming halfway earlier on. Anyway.
Yep. We'll get there. Anyway.
So yeah, we're at.
So another $1,000 hit on the list because is the 1993 3DO.
Right.
Yes, original price $700 for the Philips 3DO. That was just completely a useless system. Or Panasonic 3DO, excuse me, not Philips.
So were they the ones that also made? I remember a 3DO company did they make Might and Magic back in the day?
There was a 3DO Interactive, which was a developer, but I think that was a different company. I'll have to check.
Because I remember them, because I would always play Might and Magic 6, 7, 8, 9, and they always had 3DO in their intro logo. I always played that with Dad way back when, but yeah, I always kind of remember that logo for that. And I always wondered if they were related.
Yeah, they were a third party and they were a publisher, so they did some of the Army Men games, High Heat, Major League Baseball. They published some games as well. Yeah, Warriors of Might and Magic. So yeah, they definitely had all that. Cool. So, but yeah, so again, $700 original price, $1,095 for $1993, which is just insane.
And again, it's interesting that the consoles that on this list actually broke $1,000 were the ones that did very poorly.
Well, of course, they were all technological marvels in their own mind, at least at the time, and they just didn't get the immediate public pop to hope that they could roll back the price at some point and still be profitable.
Right.
So another interesting one, just for what people don't remember, the Sega Saturn, original price in 1995, $400. In today's dollars, that's $595, which for the technical superiority of the Saturn at the time, that is way too high of a price because technical superiority was a little bit of a ha-ha. They were better than the N64 in some levels, but the system was extremely difficult to code for, and therefore developers rarely could take full advantage of the system's power.
And being pretty much released same year as PlayStation at $100 more expensive on the Saturn side, for more of a hindrance on that
for
part.
A system that was way easier to code for, including way easier to use full motion video on.
Right.
So that's pretty much it for like big names, because now we're starting to get into the semi-modern era, and the prices don't differ. Wow. The prices don't differentiate as much.
We get to the recent generations,
Yeah, I mean, $200 for an N64, $289 is its inflation price.
So yeah, we're not getting much of a hike anymore. Nothing too crazy.
Right. So did we miss any that you guys thought were interesting, or a game system that you were wondering its original value on? Leave us a comment on the Facebook page about this episode and let us know when we post it. So that's it for game sales.
I believe that leaves us on the bottom.
Yeah. I'll have to check something, because now it looks like they've knocked our individual recording times down to 15 minutes. No wonder it felt like that first quarter was going fast. We'll have to readjust for the next show.
Right.
And we might have to take a second break for this next part. But going on after that, one thing I did want to talk about, kind of back in the wrestling world, is the likely proof that Finn Balor's time in NXT is over. And I think I already know the results of this match. It's easy to get the spoilers for NXT. They tape several shows in advance. But let's pretend for a moment we don't know what's going to happen.
Because I don't.
You don't. All right. Well, now it was announced 3 weeks ago. Now it's next week for when this is going to happen. Is Shinsuke Nakamura, who is very much the heir apparent to be the next top babyface of NXT,
right,
versus Finn Balor on, if it aired on cable, what would be the equivalent of free TV.
Right.
So I want you to think about the implications of that. And just think about it in your head for a second. We're going to go ahead and take another quick break. Again, this is nothing you guys will hear. This is just my editing mark for me, because we've only got just under 3 minutes left in this record stream. And we'll put this all together for you in post, as they like to say. So we'll be right back. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of Nerds at Night Gaming. As always, I'm Kit Thunder DJ.
And Fire 47.
All right, and on tonight's show, we got a couple things we want to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the games that came out this week, including some of our initial impressions of the ones we've gotten to play. Quick wrap-up review of Kirby Planet Robobot, which I'm just now adding because I forgot to add it to the Sochi, but trust me, we both played it and beat it, so we can talk about a lot about it. Right. Also coming up, a couple of interesting things we found. A little bit different. Normally we talk a lot about like wrestling and stuff, but tonight just a couple interesting things. One is a image bouncing around about prices for inflation, when adjusting for inflation, for various game systems throughout history, as well as some other goofy related stuff we found. So let's go ahead and get into it. Wrong sound effect on the board, but that's all right. I'm trying to make this sound more professional by having a lead-in beat. It was supposed to be the coin after that, but I hit the wrong one. Oh well. Anyway,
hopefully that didn't get picked up in the mic.
Oh, I'm sure it did, so I'm sure that's going to sound real good to everyone. We are still learning how to do this, okay?
But so far, my quality seems good today, so that's good.
Yeah, you're actually talking out of your mouth for a change.
Or the mic is actually picking me up. Because
Oh,
I'm talking normal, just like I have been.
Right. Okay.
Anyway.
All right, so let's talk about what came out this last week. To me, the three biggest titles were Star Ocean. I forget what its little sub-name is. Grand Kingdom, and of course, probably the biggest release of the week, that would be Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. That's really cool on the one hand that it's the biggest release, but also for an RPG fan and a lifelong Star Ocean fan, it hurts a little to say that it's a bigger release than Star Ocean. I know why it is, and we'll get into all that in a minute, but it still hurts. Anyway, so I got to play 2 out of the 3 of these already, and for Star Ocean, we'll actually be featuring that on our next YouTube video.
Star Ocean? You mean Star Wars?
Or Star Wars, yes, I'm sorry. Lego Star Wars will be for our next YouTube video. Look, they both have Star in the title, all right? And it's late. Again, Nerds at Night, which means we're recording this fairly late after I go work one of those real job things. But yes, Star Ocean, Integrity, and Faithlessness. I got to play a little bit of it. It's much... basically just its intro mission and more or less tutorial system. It's pretty fun. At least it's got the potential to be. It is an instant action combat, so you are using 2 attack buttons. It's not turn-based like other games, so it's that instant action RPG feel. There's potential there. There's a lot built around dodging and everything else. It's not as fluid like I would if you're going to go that far and have a dodge counterattack mechanic. I'd rather you just bite the bullet and copy the engines used by Shadows of Mordor and Batman.
I would have recommended maybe the Tales series as well.
Yeah, that's another good example. But I could also understand them trying to go their own way and not be an exact copy of what's been out there before. But I do have a lot of hope for it. And, you know, RPGs, you can usually tell right away it's either going to be something you can handle or, oh, God, this is going to suck. And so far, it still seems like something I can handle. So
Visually, it looked pretty cool. I saw a little bit from my room as he was playing
Did you
on the big
think
TV.
it looked okay visually? Because that was going to be the one negative mark I had, is I felt the in-battle and in-game graphics felt a little dated.
I don't know about that. I just noticed, like, you walking around town, I didn't know if there was a big jump between combat and travel.
Well, okay, it's all live action, so everything's rendered in the same engine, but it does look like they put a little bit of more effort in the static objects, which you see in games anyway.
Right.
So the backgrounds and the environments look great. Player models sometimes look maybe like they're a few steps down in value, but we'll see how that goes.
Oh, well.
All right, Grand Kingdom. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to play yet. I'm looking forward to it. By all accounts, it's been described as Dragon's Crown, but with a more strategy turn-based feel.
Yeah, that's what I haven't looked much into it, but I remember seeing just like a quick image of gameplay, I believe, when I saw someone link like a review of it, but it didn't mention anything about their thoughts. But it looked pretty cool. A little bit of a small-time strategy game to me.
Well, it'll be worth checking out. It looks like it'll be fun to screw around with. And, of course, again, the biggest game released this week, Lego Star Wars Force Awakens. Now, I've actually played through the first couple levels of this, and I'm in. I'm in on it. It feels like a return to form for Lego games, which is kind of, fitting since Lego Star Wars were the series that brought them into the main... Yeah, that kicked them off and brought these games to the forefront. It kind of felt like the last couple, actually, with the exception of Lego Dimension, because that's built to be a cash grab, being a toy box game, so it was automatically on that list. But their best to me was Lego City.
Yeah, Lego City was fun.
That was probably the best all-around Lego game, and this ranks right up there with it. The worst to me was Lego Indiana Jones, and the Lego... In terms of pure Lego game value, if you look at it as a Lego game, the Lego Movie game was one of the worst. If you look at it as a movie tie-in game that just happened to use the Lego engine, then it wasn't so bad. Because you knew you weren't going to get the depth in that game you were going to get in others, because it was so specialized to what it was.
Maybe. There's been so many Lego titles, they've all started to blur together to me.
They do, and there's been definitely
has this one started to, like, kind of bring the scope back in, so it's just not, like... Something that I've kind of had an issue with recent Lego games is you'll have your mission quests and stuff, but you'll have this massive overworld, like, too big, like, between the Batman games and the superhero ones, to explore and just, kind of pick up all kinds of crap in.
Yeah,
it got to the point that it was tedious. There was enjoyment there.
Right.
And especially with so much stuff locked behind, like, character abilities that you didn't have until later in the game.
No, I understand. And there is still certainly that here. You do go to overworlds for each kind of area you're in, and there are quests you can pick up based on what type of character you're playing as. They've even refined it to that, but refining it to that where, you need a First Order character to take a First Order quest, or a Rebel character to take a Rebel quest, is fine. And it doesn't seem like it's as bad as it was in Lego Superheroes 3, or Lego Batman 3, whatever you want to call it, where you had whole planets that were nothing but overworld crap.
Oh yeah,
like all the ring color worlds were all these overworlds where you ran around and you either had to just keep doing all these different races or all these destructions. There was those things certainly there, but it wasn't as bad.
Right, during babysitting, Lucas has been playing the heck out of that, so I've been having to keep an eye on that and just remember that just annoyance playing that a while back when we first played it.
Yes, and like I said, I don't want to go too much more into it. You guys will see live what we're talking about tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but here soon when that's our next recorded show for the YouTube channel, followed by great retro comic book games. So those are our next two planned episodes. All right, so we're about 8 minutes into our first show, or so we're a little over halfway through our first record section. So let's
Want to jump on to Kirby?
yeah, let's just do the quick capsule review of Kirby. I liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I feel like as I was playing it a good chunk of the way through, it really started to feel like monotonous in an odd sense. Like, I've always been a fan of Kirby games, although I haven't played every single one of them. There was a span across the handhelds that I kind of missed, but it really started to just kind of feel like a bit of a slog. And I was just like, wait, where is this going? When I was like 2 to 3 worlds in and nothing was really happening.
I don't think I would have given it that short of a time to be monotonous. I think the problem was they were trying to give it more content, which it really didn't need. So you did a couple of extra quests in there that could have been left off. I do think the entire final progression to the boss fight could have been shorter. And I really didn't like, and this is a spoiler, so if you really don't want to know, give yourself about 5 seconds, because I'm just going to say what it is. We're not going to comment anymore on it. But the final boss fight being a plane battle through the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was not cool, because you have this whole game, for the most part, built around being a platform, and then you do that for the end.
Yeah, but in that sense, that's what they've almost always been.
Maybe, but
when you're thinking about it, because like
I don't want to talk too much. People are probably coming back off of going like, wait, they're still talking about it. So no. We'll get more in depth in that after it's been out for a little while. We'll come back to that. But that's, or if we ever figure out a way to do a let's play with handheld games, I know there's a way to do it. I just haven't found it yet.
Yeah, it's tricky, but it can be done.
Yeah. So that's Kirby is good, but watch out for that ending is what we'll say. Now, moving on from that, here in the final 5 minutes, we're going to do a little script flip here because I think the last 5 minutes we can perfectly fit into what we were going to do in the third block, which is out cruising around on the Facebooks. I came across Final Fantasy VII Monopoly. And I followed the story to make sure it was legit because I'm not one of those people who just believes a image on Facebook. I checked it out.
We found an article discussing it.
On what is it? How do you pronounce it?
Kotaku.
Kotaku. Clickbait Central.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it looks like it's a really licensed game for Final Fantasy VII. You're delving into Midgar and trying to build and buy businesses and whatnot there. I mean, I've bought licensed versions of games before. I'm sure, judging by the number of them I see at yard sales when I go out looking for retro games, a lot of us have. So it looks cool. I'm hoping it's got some pretty cool little twists to it while still staying a Monopoly game. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it could be pretty cool. It seems pretty interesting. Like, I think it'd just be kind of funny seeing some of like how they've changed like landmark locations or whatever around the board.
Yeah,
to make the Final Fantasy related, I think that'd be pretty funny to see.
To make it Final Fantasy related, to make it, really, there's not a lot of sites you pull from in the game, so I really am kind of curious to see how they stretch that out for every space and how they make them link together for the colors. That's going to be really cool.
Well, they could probably make the railways into like the various weapons. Probably, I could imagine
they can make either the weapons, the various railroads, or they could make just different stops or stations on the rail line in Midgar. So that could be interesting. I'm wondering if the Shinra headquarters will be Boardwalk.
Probably. And there's just general item shops. They could have like a little potion shop for a place.
I'm sure they could use the shops as like chance or community chests. So, I mean, there's definitely possibility there. This is not as far of a reach as other ones. Like, I bought the Ninja Turtles one, and I was really wondering. I haven't opened it just because I liked the way it looked more than anything else. So it's like I did wonder what are they going to do with this. So I'll probably open it up at some point and look at it. So that got me thinking here in the last couple of minutes we have in this first half of our show. What licensed version of, and it doesn't have to be Monopoly, but of, think of your favorite classic board game. Which one would you want to see a licensed version of?
I'm going to have to think about this for a minute. If you have one, go ahead.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, like...
one of my favorites that exists already was Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Monopoly. So I'd love to see them do a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Clue.
That'd be interesting.
Where it's all the Treehouse of Horror characters and all the different locations from the special episodes built around actually solving something. So you got just under 2 minutes. So come on,
I don't know. Like, I haven't played too many board games a lot to like have a defined favorite. I don't think so. It's like kind of on the spot, I guess.
Well, all right. Well, then just another Monopoly game. What other licensed Monopoly game would you want to see? You young kids today without playing your board games. In my day, we did blow off a titty dancer. I mean, wait, no, that's wrong. We totally did. Anyway.
I don't know. They could probably pull off some funny, like, anime-related ones, or maybe Miyazaki movies into a board game. That'd be kind of interesting.
Howl's Moving Castle Monopoly. Yeah,
that'd actually be. There you go.
That's gonna work so well. I know.
Or just Miyazaki in general, like various movie.
All the different. Yeah, because you would have to go more than one movie, I think, to make it work. He's very one and done with his locations.
That's actually a bit of an idea right there.
Yeah. It's almost as good of an idea as I had earlier. Somebody showed a picture of a skull mug, and they were like, they need this to pretend they're drinking out of the skull of their enemy. I'm like, I want to start a business where you take 3D scans of people's skulls and make mugs. That way you can give it to your spouse when you get married as a cute little morbid gift. And then if you get divorced, then you really are drinking your coffee out of the skull of your enemy.
Wow.
Hey.
From the mind of Dustin, people.
Right, but that would make a lot of money. All right. So we're 30 seconds out from this program, cutting us off. We'll be right back here in a second with the second half. As usual, you guys won't notice the difference, but this is more tracking for me for editing. We'll be right back.